Crop dusters, not the average aircraft you see in general aviation space. However, in 1965, the Soviets took what was a conventional agricultural aircraft and pushed that narrative beyond what anyone thought was possible. Looking to replace the AN-2, the PZL M-15 Belphegor has been the only jet biplane aircraft to be designated as a crop duster. The Soviet Union was looking for a successor in its Antonov AN-2, as a large area crops dominated the Soviet agriculture. Solutions were needed to increase the load-bearing capacity of chemicals, as well as width and uniformity of dusting in general. The creation of a new aircraft was to be part of the agricultural modernization program, which was then pushed by the team of Leonid Brezhnev and his mate Alexei, who took power in the USSR in the second half of the 1960s. Various aircraft companies from the Institute of Aviation and different Soviet organizations began development work. Following an agreement between the Polish and Soviet governments for the design and production of a new large agricultural aircraft, it was given the designation PZL M-15. The Polish designers set about looking at various configurations and somehow came up with the audacious configuration of a biplane with a jet engine. Adopted into the project was the La-La-1, which was constructed at the Institute of Aviation. The front of the fuselage with the wings of the AN-2 aircraft was connected to the AL-25 engine, and a new tail was placed on new truss structure. Interestingly, the plane was registered as a military aircraft, and most importantly, the jet engine had to be tested to ensure the use of jet propulsion did not cause negative changes in spraying or dusting characteristics. But most importantly, that it did not harm plants, which succeeded in proving. Its design, however, left much to be desired. As well, it had a mullet 1947 in the front and, 1917 in the back. Looks aside, the first flight of this airframe, if you can call it that, was actually powered by the radial engine. In literature, a similar aircraft is described as the La-La-2 in its jet configuration. Whether this was the second prototype or whether the La-La-1 was converted to this machine has not yet been proven. However, records show that on February 26, 1972, it actually given its first flight of this machine with its designated jet engine. The AL-25 engine was chosen for drive, as piston and turboprop engines at the time in the Soviet Union did not prove sufficient power for the aircraft with a higher lifting capacity than the Antonov AN-2. The jet engine, which is a twin-shaft medium bypass turbofan, puts out a thrust of 1700 kilograms on takeoff. It's the same engine used by the L-39 Albatross fighter. However, its civilian role is most widely known for the Yakolov Yak-40, a three-engined airliner. Often called as the first regional jet transport aircraft, this is the starting point of further derivatives of the turbofan engine, which started in 1965. Given approval by the Soviets to continue the project, PZL made up 5 designs based around parts from the AN-2 and other aircraft the Soviets had available. What was produced was the first prototype of the M-15. The initial LLP M-15 prototype made its first flight on 30th of May 1973, piloted by this lovely chap here. 5 pre-production aircraft followed, making the rounds of the aircraft all tested over the Eastern Bloc, and in 1977, the M-15 was demonstrated at the Paris Air Show, where it was named the Belphegor, or Demon. A full certificate of airworthiness was certified on the 4th of April 1979. Of unusual configuration, the M-15 had unequal span biplane wings, twin tail booms extending aft of its twin fins and rudders, united by a high-set tailplane and elevator. Fixed tricycle landing gear, a central fuselage provided accommodation for the pilot, and to his rear had a cabin for a 2-seat ground crew during ferry flights which operated between rural areas. The single turbofan power plant was mounted above the fuselage, and 2 streamlined chemical hoppers occupied the full gap between each wing, mounted directly beneath the tail booms. Their combined chemical capacity was 2,900 litres. By one turbofan engine, which weighed 1,500 kilograms, the takeoff weight was 5,750 kilograms, or 12,000 pounds. Wingspan was 22 meters, or 73 feet and 3 inches. The length was 13 meters, or 43 feet. At a height of 5 meters, or about 18 feet, the wing area was 67.9 meters squared, or 730 squared feet. With a max speed of 200 kilometers an hour, or 124 mile an hour, a cruise speed was just set at 175 kilometers an hour, 109 miles an hour. The range was only a measly 480 kilometers or 298 miles. However, the mass use of the aircraft that the designers envisioned was only halted by the high fuel consumption, of which, considering the oil crisis in the 1970s, meant that running this aircraft came at significantly increased costs. It did not stop there. The long returns and high requirements regarding the quality of chemicals and technical service, which were difficult to meet in the Soviet conditions, included proper washing of equipment, which turned out to be a problem, as there were no water sources at landing sites. Combined with a unique chemical loading system that often failed, pilots and operators did not enjoy using the aircraft, as it was apparent that there were several drawbacks to the aircraft, including its poor handling, limited range, and high operating costs. While the production commenced in 1976, these problems remained unresolved and meant that the M-15 was notably inferior to several aspects of the aircraft it was trying to replace, that of the AN-2. In all, the M-15 was a relatively heavy aircraft and has been described as being the heaviest biplane to be ever produced. In an ironic twist of fate, it was revealed after the Soviet Union had fallen that it was only built to give the Polish engineers something to do, rather than let them make other good independent designs, such as the PZL M-15 Belphegor, which outclassed this aircraft. During the same time, the M-15 was built in 1976, of which, well, they built over 800 examples of, comparatively to the 175 of the M-15. Even though it was not a success, it is thought to hold some of the world's most interesting records. The world's slowest jet production aircraft, the world's only production jet biplane, and the world's only agricultural jet airplane as well, and subjectively it could be awarded the ugliest jet aircraft ever put into production. And as such, many of the Belphegor airframes sit as monuments around Eastern European airports to this day as living testaments to the agricultural reforms that the Soviets did in the late 70s. However, one could say that the M-15 was not cream of the crop. Big thanks to the Polish Aviation Museum at Cracow for their help in this video. Subscribe for more.